Hey, what's going on, guys? So 2 weeks ago, I took the time to make a chart highlighting all of the Pokemon duel types that have not been created yet. And I kind of went over that 2 weeks ago, and recently, just the other day, I took a closer look and kind of analyzed each pairing to see if there was any ones that really stood out to me, or if there was any that I could actually envision as a real Pokemon. So that's what this video is going to be about. Sit tight, and we're going to go through my list.
I love Pokemon. Raise a glass of Moo Moo milk for Pokemon.
So if you haven't seen the video where I actually went over this chart that I made, be sure to check out that video. In that video, I mentioned that there are 43 pairings that we have not seen. And of those 43, I think I came up with about 20 that would actually work as viable Pokemon. The other 20, I was just kind of like, no appeal, I don't think that's a good idea. But anyways, about 11 of them I actually came up with decent ideas for. The other ones I just think are good pairs, even though I have no idea what they could be. So I'll start this list off with the one that I mentioned last time that I kind of thought of on the spot, and that was a fighting ghost. And I kind of thought of it as a kind of martial arts master that has passed away due to old age, because he's spent his entire life training and learning all of the different martial arts and becoming a great fighter, something like that. As far as like how it would look or anything, I don't precisely know. I wouldn't want it to look like just like an old man. That doesn't make sense. But like I don't know, I just think that idea itself would be really cool. So now the rest of these, I'm just gonna kind of go in order down the chart of just kind of like how I went through the chart. So the first one we come across is Fire and Grass. Now, not only do I think this sounds like a pretty awesome combination, but a long time ago when all these Pokemon leaks were coming out for Pokemon 7, or Pokemon Gen 7 rather, apparently there was a leak of the new Pokemon for the new Pokedex, and one of them was a Fire Grass Pokemon. And although we didn't have names, it was called the Pepper Pokemon. And I feel like that would be perfect for this type. Like, if it's just a hot pepper or like a jalapeno or something like that, that is just like a hot vegetable or other kind of plant, I think that would work really well. So the next one is Fire Fairy. Now, first thing that immediately comes to my head is some kind of like fire nymph, but that's too vague. I wanted to hone in on something that I thought would be a little bit cooler. And since the region of Alola is going to be based off of Hawaii, why not have a Pokemon that's based off of this region as well? And for Fire Fairy, the first thing that comes to my head when I think, with all this in mind is like a tiki torch. Like, kind of like a tiki, like, maybe like the mask from Crash Bandicoot, but like more of like an actual torch, like, so it's a cone, not just a mask. And then there's like a little flame on the top. Something like that I think would be really cool. Now the next one jumps all the way over to Ice, and for this I thought Ice Fighting would be a great combo. We haven't had one of those yet, and I don't know exactly what it would be, but the first thing that pops into my head for this combination is the giant snow monster from Frozen. I know it's ridiculous, but that's the only thing my head can think of. And staying with Ice Fairy, I think would be really cool. Initially, the first thing I thought of was Shiva from Final Fantasy X. She's one of the summons, but obviously they can't just take that from Final Fantasy, and that doesn't really work. So I gave it a little bit more thought, and I kind of thought maybe if it was based off of like an ice skater or a figure skater mixed with maybe a ballerina, but like the figure skating thing, if there was something in there, maybe. So the next combo I thought of was Ground Fighting, and the first Pokemon that came to mind with this, like a pre-existing Pokemon, is Geodude. And mostly Geodude and Graveler, but because they're like kind of bulky, like they could be like a wrestler almost. Like Graveler looks like he could wrestle pretty good. So I kind of thought, what if we made Graveler have a branched evolution? Because you need to trade for Golem. What if you give Graveler some kind of item like the Black Belt or something kind of like the Metal Coat for Onyx, but like a fighting based one, which made him evolve into something else that was ground fighting rather than ground rock for Graveler? I think that would be really cool. Now this next one, Poison and Steel, sounds bizarre, and Steel resists poison, so it's kind of like, what on earth could they do? And the first thing that jumps into my head is needles, because it's like you have the syringe and you're putting something like poison into something. But giving it more thought, I kind of thought of like an archer with like a poison arrow. So I think if we made like an archer type Pokemon, like a little Pokemon that ran around with a little bow and arrow, I think that would be really cool. The closest thing I can think of this, like a closest like reference, is one of the Heartless from Kingdom Hearts. I think it's only in Unchained Key. It's one of the new ones, but it's like a little, I don't know, it's a little Heartless with a little bow and arrow, and it's kind of like purple and stuff. But anyways, I think that would be kind of cool, just to have like a bow and arrow Pokemon. So the next one for Poison, I thought Poison and Fairy, because Poison is good against Fairy, and I thought, you know, having these opposites would be really cool. It took me a while to actually think of what could actually work, until a friend of mine mentioned that a group of mushrooms is called a fairy circle. So what if we had like a poisonous mushroom that was a fairy somehow? And I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking of Amoonguss and whatever the other one is that is already a Pokemon. But like, the fairy circle is like a large group of mushrooms. So what if it's like, kind of like Execute, where it's like, you know, a bunch of eggs, but it's like a bunch of mushrooms that, I don't know, something. Elaborate. Do something in the comments. Go. So the next one for Rock and Ghost, I thought would be perfect as a Coffin, but we already have Cofagrigus, or however you say his name, so that didn't really quite work. But there are other things similar to Cofagrigus that have not been used that could work as a rock ghost. There's a thing called a canopic jar, and I believe that's for Egyptian culture, where but basically they pulled out their organs and put them in jars, that way they would have them for the afterlife. But like, if this jar came to life as a Pokemon, that could be a rock ghost Pokemon that would be really creepy and really cool, and I don't know, that could be cool. Another thought for this is to have a Pokemon based on the Terracotta Army, which is I believe it's a Japanese army that is like statues. I don't exactly know how it works, but basically it's like an army of statues that like come to life to defend something. I don't know, I should have really looked it up, but I know the idea. So moving on to another opposite, Fairy and Dragon. I think this one has potential to be very, very cool. First thought for this, kind of like maybe like a little mini dragon, but no, I don't want it to be miniaturized. I don't want fairies to be associated with just being little tiny creatures. I think they should be big and cool and awesome, just like every other type. So I'm imagining some kind of dragon that is like designed like Sylveon with the ribbons and everything. Maybe it's like its wings are made out of lace or ribbon or like kind of like silk or some shit. I don't know. I think that idea, if somebody ran with it and designed it really well, could be really awesome. Okay, so I actually forgot to. We'll go back and look at those really quick here. The first one is Fairy and Fighting. Now I think this one would be really cool. I don't know exactly how they would do it. The thing that comes to mind for me is another Heartless from Kingdom Hearts 2 called the Aerial Knocker. It's basically this little bird with these giant punching gloves. So I think if we could kind of twist this into, obviously, a new Pokemon, I think that could be really cool. Obviously, they can't just rip off a design. But something similar to that I think would work well. And now for this last one, it actually took me a while to think of, but after I thought of it, I was like, oh my god, this is awesome, it needs to be a thing. So this one was for Fairy and Ghost, and it sounds bizarre, that combination, but what I thought of was kind of like a Reaper. Basically, some kind of supernatural spirit that takes a person after they die and guides them to the afterlife. If you take that concept and think of it as a Pokemon, Ferry Ghost is the perfect thing for that. And I don't know, I have no idea what it would look like, but I just feel like that concept applied to this typing of Pokemon would be really, really cool. So those are all of the ones that I actually thought of, like, kind of ideas for. The rest of them are just kind of pairings that I thought would work. And now that I'm actually looking at my list, because I wrote them down, these pairs, I actually thought of some that might work for these. One of them was Buggin Fairy. I would love this to be applied to a male Combee, like an evolution of a male Combee, because a male Combee is freaking useless because only the females evolve. So if we give him, you know, something cool, like with this fairy type, it would make male Combee a thing. Maybe. I don't fucking know. The other one that I just thought of goes to Poison Rock, and the first thing my head kind of jumps to is a sea urchin. It makes no sense, but that's what my head jumps to. And I mean, we have Pokemon that look like fish that aren't, and I'm looking at Sunfisk for this one, because that's electric ground, but it looks like a fish. So, hey, why not a Poison Rock sea urchin? Why not? So the other ones I'm just going to circle on the map here so you can look at them. If you guys can look at these circled ones and think of anything that would work good for these typings, let me know in the comments. I would love to hear your ideas on these. And also for the ones that I previously mentioned, if you guys can think of anything better than I've thought of or can elaborate on my like half ideas into something that might be awesome, totally do that in the comments as well. I look forward to hearing all of your guys' ideas. And while you're down there, hit that like button. It lets me know that you guys like what I'm doing, and it gives me encouragement to keep doing what I'm doing. So, yeah, I will see you guys in the comments, hopefully, and have a good one. I'll see you next time. Peace out. Hey, guys, thanks again for watching. If you want to see more videos, click on these tiles over here. Yeah, they're over there. It's been so long since I've looked at my end screen. Oh god, you know where they are. You can see the end screen. I can't. Anyways, click on them for more videos, and I will see you next time. Oh my god, I'm a mess.